Hello my friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today's video is going to be my reading TBR for the month of February. I can't believe that February is already here. Like, it felt like we had just started the new year and January just flew by. Towards the end of the month, I started back university, but this month's TBR is going to be a little bit smaller because university has just come like a train and hit me out of nowhere. And I've found that I have spent a lot more time doing assignments and senior thesis, just trying to graduate. So there will be some big books, but not very many. I mean, there's still a ton, but yeah, we'll just see how the month goes. But I think without further ado, let's hop in with all the books that I plan on picking up this month. But I kind of split this up into books that I will for sure be picking up this month. And then the other is just some books that I might pick up towards the end of the month if I do get through all these other ones that I plan on picking up. And the first one is going to be Beach Read by Emily Henry. I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with Plot Twist with Jesse. I loved People We Meet on Vacation, and I don't know why I haven't picked up Beach Read yet, because this was actually came out before People We Meet on Vacation, and Emily Henry is actually coming out with another book, another romance book coming out this month maybe, or next month, so here pretty soon. But since I love People We Meet on Vacation so much, I thought it was time to pick it up in the month of February for Valentine's Day. But in this one, I believe we follow two different writers who are kind of on this little vacation, and they're both in a rut, in a writing rut, and they decide to switch genres and see if that will kind of get them out of the rut. But I believe they were kind of rivals back in college or in high school, and now they're kind of sparkling a little bit of romance. So I'm hoping that it's just as great as People We Meet on Vacation. And if you do want to join in on that buddy read, I'm not sure where we're doing it, but I'll have to message her and figure it out, and then I'll let you know. And then I'll be continuing on with quite a few different series and actually finishing one, I think. But one of the first books that I'll be continuing on with series is Jade War by Fonda Lee. This is the second book in the Greenbone saga, and I actually started reading this last month with Mel Reach. Is doing like a channel read along, so I'll make sure to leave a link down below to her kind of video, and it's definitely not too late to kind of catch up and join in if you still want to. But I just absolutely love this world of K-Con and the use of Jade in kind of the politics between these two rival clans, and how it kind of impacts both the civilians living on K-Con and just the family members within the two different clans. But in Jade City, you follow different members of the No Peak clan, which is kind of one of the most dominant kind of clans within K-Con, the city, the capital of Janloon. And you just follow as kind of things between the No Peak clan and the Mountain clan are kind of starting to heat up, and a lot of things are kind of changing. But a lot of things are changing now that a lot of family members are kind of taking roles that they're not used to, and they're kind of trying to fit into these shoes that they aren't used to. And there's a lot of politics involved, which I do enjoy, and just the magic involved in kind of the Jade and how it's kind of involved in fighting. The fight scenes in here are absolutely outstanding, and I just love kind of getting to know the perspectives a lot more in the first book, because they're just like, they're thrown into the wolf's den, the lion's den, and they have to kind of survive. And there was one point in the first book where everything kind of just unfolded, and it just completely heated up, and it was just nonstop. Read from there. But I'm excited to see how this will kind of continue on in Jade War, because of the events of the first book and where it kind of will lead to in the future. And then next up we have Starsight, which is the second book in the Skyward quartet, I believe. But after finishing Skyward, and putting it down, it has been on my mind since then. That's how much I loved it. I've always loved kind of little sci-fi stories and kind of exploring space. And in here, there's the setup involved with it, and following Spencer as the main perspective, I loved it. Spencer, she's a little fireball, and she gets what she wants. She definitely has a couple different ruts that she has to go through to kind of get what she wants and be a pilot. But I just loved her as a character, and just seeing how she kind of interacted with the other kind of perspectives and characters involved in this training academy, and how they're all trying to survive. I just loved all the elements involved in it. And a lot of people say that she's very kind of annoying to read, and I can understand, but I like Spencer as a character, but I kind of just am how Spencer is in these books. I don't know why, but she vibes with me. But in the first book, you follow Spencer, who's trying to be a pilot, but she's kind of has to struggle because in the most famous battle that kind of shifted the tide in the war, but this battle kind of shifted the tide between the Kree, I believe, the Krell, and the humanity kind of living on this planet after they were kind of forced onto this planet, and they've been trying to fight for survival. And this one battle kind of shifted the tide, and her father was said to have fled, and because of that, Spencer and her family have kind of been thrown into the shadows, and ever since that day she's been kind of trying to fight her way back into the pilot seat. And in the first book, she gets back in that pilot seat and she starts learning how to fly, but also uncovering how, like, what really happened in that battle, and maybe that her father didn't flee. And at the end of the first book, there were some answers that were given, and I'm excited to see where it will continue in Starsight. And sadly, I will be finishing the Winter Night trilogy because I just started The Girl in the Tower yesterday, and I love it. I feel like I love it even more than the first book, which is really odd because a lot of times the second book, as you know, it kind of gets that middle book syndrome, but I've loved it a ton. But it felt like all the things that kind of occurred in the first book have really kind of just led up and set up all for this book and the rest of the series. And at the end, like, of reading the first book, I was like, where's it gonna go with this? But after diving into it, like, I've understood. And so I will be picking up, probably right after I finish The Girl in the Tower, The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden, the final book. I don't know if I want to finish it or not. But I loved how already in The Girl in the Tower it's kind of touched more on just the folktale elements and just the Russian history involved, and just learning little bits along the way, as well as kind of seeing Vasya kind of grow and just search for adventure and just discovering new places and having to be thrown back into the world. And already in The Girl in the Tower, like, there's a little bit more romance between her and the snow demon, and I've just been loving it so much. But in the first book, you follow Vasya, who lives in this kind of remote Russian village in the middle of nowhere, but they all kind of worship the old gods. And now, with the death of her mom, a new stepmom kind of comes to town, and she brings with her some new changes and a new religion. But Vasya has to kind of figure out what's going on and what these changes are meaning for just the world that she has kind of always known, and what will happen if these changes continue. But she has to kind of make a deal with one of the snow demons, and together they kind of have to save the village. But if you haven't read these, this is totally atmospheric, and I would definitely recommend. And I want to finish it and see how it ends, but I don't want it to end. Also in the new year, I was hoping to pick up a classic every 2 months, like one every 2 months. And for the first one for this new year is going to be Frankenstein, and this is considered like the origin of the sci-fi genre. And I have been hearing great things about it. It's like it's one of the most renowned kind of classics for getting into just classics. But since the sci-fi genre is a genre that I do enjoy, I thought it is due time to kind of pick up and see how it inspired just the genre and everything to come after. But the only thing I really know about it is like a Dr. Frankenstein kind of creates a Frankenstein's monster, and it just follows the monster's perspective, I believe, as he is kind of discovering the world, I believe. I have no idea. But I'm just excited to get into it and get into reading more classics. And the last continuation of series is actually the Biblionauts kind of series read-along, and is going to be the second book in the Poppy War trilogy, and that is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. The first book was absolutely outstanding. I think it is considered like grimdark. It definitely touches on some very gruesome scenes and the events of war. That is one thing I did enjoy. Like, it definitely portrays the horrors of war very well, and it like hurt me deeply to kind of understand and think that these things were actually inspired by events that actually occurred. Like, that hurt me. But also, like, the magic of shamanism was really interesting, and I liked the kind of element of kind of like taking hallucinogens. There's like the element of shamanism, and there's also another kind of magic, I believe, with like ki and like the inner kind of power, and it's passed down through family. So I thought that was interesting as well. But also following Rin as a character was really interesting, and just seeing her grow. Like, you also see several years in the first book as she is kind of going from just like a peasant girl living in a random village, but then going to the top military academy and kind of learning to fight and tactics and everything. But then there's just a war looming, and she is just thrown all over the place, and she has to make decisions as she goes and see the consequences because of those decisions. But the way that the first one ended has kind of been similar to a lot of these other ones. It's been on my mind, and I've just been dying to pick it up. And speaking of the Biblionauts, the book club pick for the month of February is Us Villians, and I've been dying to pick this up since I saw it announced, since it was kind of like said to be like a darker Hunger Games, following some like, because the Hunger Games is really dark, as you know, like kids killing each other. But this one, I believe we follow a villainous character, which kind of throws a new spin on it. Like, definitely in the Hunger Games, like, you have, like, Cato, who I would consider, like, a villainous character, and some of those other ones, like Clove. But this one, what makes it stand out even more is there are elements of magic. So magic and, like, a Hunger Games setup, it's all I need to know. But in here, there is a magical kind of competition that goes on between these rival families that all kind of compete for the control of this well of just magic. And every 20 years, they throw the kids in an arena and they make them fight. But the winner, their family, kind of gets control of this well of the magic, and they basically have power over everyone. But now, another kind of competition is coming, and it takes the world stage. But the public kind of hears about this, and it kind of makes it onto the screen. But I believe we follow several different perspectives, and I think this is actually going to be a duology, and I think the new book is coming out here pretty soon. I don't think it's been announced, but I'm very ready to see if I do enjoy this. So if you do want to join in, there's going to be a link down below to the Discord channel. And the last book for these for sure books that I'll be picking up this month is actually a book for university, and it is Nefertiti. I hope I'm saying that right. But in this class, we're kind of uncovering powerful women in history, and this is one book that we're kind of analyzing. We have to review, and it is due towards the end of the month, so I'm hoping to pick up the audiobook of this. But in here, we follow Nefertiti, who is destined to marry the pharaoh Amenhotep. But I believe kind of like the religious leaders are hoping that her strong personality is supposed to match the kind of unstable pharaoh and kind of bring back order to Egypt, as well as kind of like to soothe the gods. But I'm really excited to read this because ancient Egyptian history is one of the topics that I really do enjoy to learn more about. So this actually isn't even kind of like a bummer. Usually most of the books that I read for university are a bummer, but this one is not. And then we have just 3 books on the maybe category, because those other books are some like thick books and they'll probably take up most of my time. And the first one is going to be A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 3rd book in A Court of Thorns and Roses. But I won't bore you too much on just like what's going on here, because this is a very popular series. I did enjoy the first one, but I feel like I enjoyed the second one a lot more, and kind of learning more about Rysan. Is that how you say his name? I hope I'm saying that right. And just Feyre as well, as how they're kind of thrown into the night court, and I just love the night court setting. But it felt like it kind of had the umbrella plot line kind of unfolded in the second book. So I'm very interested to see kind of how it will go in this book. But I'm not too kind of eager to pick it up. I want to continue on and finish it, but it's not like been on my mind like those other ones. And then another thick book that is an adult fantasy that I've kind of been wanting to get into since I saw it and actually picked up a copy, because I just love the elements of steampunk in it. There's Engines of Empire, and the only reason I haven't put this on the for sure is because I do want to finish up a couple other series, that way I can just clean everything away and kind of start fresh with some new ones. That way my mind can just have a fresh start, because it goes everywhere. But in here we follow several different perspectives. We follow one who's kind of thrown into the ranks of the military to kind of earn his honor and just see what's really going on. But in his perspective, we see that kind of a rebellion is rising again. And then we follow a sorceress who has the ability of the Pyrostone. The Pyrostone actually kind of fuels the different machines of the Empire, and then she is kind of sent into the mines to learn more about the Pyrostone, but she actually uncovers the horrors of just what the Empire is doing with the Pyrostone and how it kind of impacts everything going on. But then we follow another perspective who is an artificer, and he's kind of sent as an emissary and a guide. And when he goes there, he's kind of framed for murder. But they're all kind of grappling with the rising of the rebellion and everything, their own situations as well. And I forgot to mention that all these perspectives are actually the family members of the Hawkspurs, who kind of control the Empire, and they're kind of the ruling family, but they're all kind of sent on their own paths to kind of earn their right in the family. But I'm very excited to start this once I get some of those other series done. And this last book is actually going to be one that it's probably going to be a for sure. And I'll check out the audiobook of it once it comes in. This is Life of Pi. I've heard great things about this. I love the movie and just like the elements of color and like the way the visual effects were kind of incorporated into it. I loved it, but I have never read the book. I don't know why. I always wanted to read it, but for some reason I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll just watch the movie again because I love it so much. But I think a lot of people know what this is as well, so I won't bore you. But I'm interested to see how it kind of will compare to the movie. I've heard that it's very different in some parts, and I've also heard that the book is actually boring. I think my little sister has read this, and she didn't enjoy the book as much as she did the movie. So I don't know, if you've read this, please let me know. But this is probably the one on the top of the maybe list. But those are all the books I hope to pick up in the month of February. What are the books you're hoping to pick up in the month of February? And what was your favorite book of January? That month I felt just flew by. But that is going to be all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing so you never miss out on another adventure. But it is time for Ellie to come on here and just wish you all to have a splendid day. But she also says that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.